Hey y'all, welcome back to the Northern Redneck channel. Today I'm going to be showing y'all guys my 13 favorite springtime bass fishing lures. Now, springtime is to me one of my favorite times a year to go fishing. The reason for that, pretty good weather and the spawn. The bass, their spawn is during springtime, and it is probably some of the best fishing, in my opinion, that there is, because the bass are coming up shallow, they're making beds, and they're laying their eggs. Now, the spawn for the bass goes on for around 2.5 weeks, and depending on where you are, it could be different. And here in Colorado, um, they're starting to get on beds, and it is April 3rd. It is April 3rd today, and they were starting to get on beds about 2 days ago. So April 1st is when they started coming up shallow. And I'm going to show y'all guys some of my favorite lures to be throwing during this springtime. Alright, so first variety of lures, stick baits. Now, here we have a Gary Yamamoto Green Pumpkin Senko. Now, the reason I find this worm such a great lure is because it does not matter what time of year you are fishing. You will most definitely always catch a fish on this. Now, there are many ways you can fish this. You can fish this wacky style, where you put a little hook through right here. You can fish it wacky style, and you can Texas rig it. And you can do a weighted Texas rig, or you can do an unweighted Texas rig. I usually am doing a weighted Texas rig, and that's just because I can get more casting distance on. And my everyday rod is the Lunkers TV Specialty favorite rod, the Defender. Such a great rod. It is a 7.5 fast action. Such a just all out great rod for pretty much everything. Now, this is a lure that I've always got in my tackle box. I never leave anywhere without it. It is going to catch you fish a lot of the times, any time of the year. Now, coming into my second one, it's another Senko, but it's in a June bug with a bright blue tail. I like fish. Oh yeah, I should probably say this. So I like fishing this when it's in like murky, muddy water, and I can fish this in pretty clear water with this green pumpkin, and it'll catch something most likely. I mean, most of the time. Now, my second favorite color for a Senko is the June bug. Now I like this color because I can fish it the same way with this one. I can fish it clear, or I can fish it murky. And this lure I have had way more luck on. This worm I've had way more luck on than the green pumpkin. And I don't know if that's just the places I'm fishing, or if the bass just like this color way better. Now, the same way you can fish it is you can fish it wacky, or you can do it fish it weighted or unweighted with Texas rigs. My main way, just like this one, is weighted Texas rigs, because I can cast it out further, and I can hop it, and I don't have to let it fall as long. I don't have to wait for it as long to fall. Now, staying in the stick bait range, we have got a trick worm. Now, I've caught many bass on a trick worm, especially this one. This is a 6-inch, I think. I've caught bass and pike on this lure. I've even caught bluegill, big bluegill. So, this is a green pumpkin, really. It's like a really green pumpkin, and it's got a very chartreuse tail. Now, how I like to fish this is I like to fish this with a shaky head. And I like to fish all my trick worms with shaky heads, because I feel I can cast a shaky head way out further than I can with a weighted Texas rig, because usually when you're fishing with a weight on your Texas rig, you're not fishing very big. You're fishing pretty small. Now, I like to fish with a shaky head because it's got about the same head as a jig, and you can throw jigs out pretty far. And I think that shaky heads is always a good lure to have. And these bass, when they're getting up shallow, you want to be throwing worms mainly, because those are what they're going to be hitting on most of the time. Depending on where you are in Colorado, they've been hitting worms for the 4 years I've been here. They've always hit worms during the spawn. Now, staying in the soft plastic range, we've got crawlers. Here is a beaver tail, once again, June bug crawler. Now, how I like to fish these, my opinion too, is I like to fish these on jigs. I do fish them occasionally here, every now and then, Texas rigged with a weight. And what you would really want to be fishing a Texas rigged with a weight is when you're flipping and you're trying to get into deep cover and you're trying to get those bass or whatever you're fishing for. Pike, you can catch pretty much all these lures I have here today. You can catch pretty much anything from bass to pike. So I like to fish this on a jig because the tails on this, when they're coming through the water, these things are shaking. These things are vibrating. They're vibrating the water. And when it's on a jig, it is a wonderful, wonderful combo. Now, staying with the crawler, I've caught, these were brand new. I got these last Christmas. And I've caught a handful of bass on these. I have put these on the back of smaller jigs, but I like to fish these Texas rig because, number one, they're a lot longer than this. Their shaft right here is way longer, and I can get this out there, and I can fish it shallow and take it out deep, or I can take it deep and fish it in shallow. So this is like one of my favorite crawlers. I like this more than this. And this is a green pumpkin color. This is a green pumpkin. And here's a June bug. So you really get that one. That's a June bug. It's got that black with a little bit of blue flake. I really like this. Very, very good lure. You should always get one of these. Always have some crawlers with you. Now, going to swim baits. Here, we have got I got the bag here. We have got a Zoom Swimmin' Super Fluke White Ice. Now, this is a junior. This one is about 3 inches, 3.5 inches to a 4. Now, I like to fish these on the back of spinner baits. These juniors, I like to fish these ones on the back of spinner baits and chatter baits. I have thrown these, once again, on smaller worm hooks, because if you're fishing with a smaller rod, say you're fishing with a spinning rod and you're fishing a really small pond, these are a great thing because fish eat other fish. So if you're throwing something the same size as the fish that you're fishing at, the same fish in the lake that you're fishing at, and you're throwing something like this and they're the same size and they're referencing the same color, they got some like this, got some shad. This represents a shad, by the way. They're most likely going to be hitting this. They will hit something that resembles what their food is. Now, this one is one of my favorite ones. This is one of my favorite lures out of everything. This is a live target. This is a live target yellow perch swim bait, soft plastic, and I've fished this year already, and I've caught quite a few bass on it. When I got this, it didn't come with this treble hook. It didn't come with this treble hook at all. It was just like this, but I put this treble hook on there. I will say this, one of Live Target's many flaws, I think one of their flaws in this is this hook right here. Now, how I fish this, you can fish this on a jig head, and when you fish this on a jig head, it's just like this. It basically just like this. The hook will come out the top. On this size, this isn't very big. It's about a 4-inch. I do not like the hook style right here. Number one, because this right here, if you look, how the fin is in the way, the fish can push this down, but this fin causes you a lot of loss of fish. That's one of the things. I'm not a big fan of this. I love this lure. With this treble hook on it, I've caught so many more fish on it, and it came to my number one. But this one hook alone, I don't think is enough. It's a very, very good lure because the reason I like throwing swim baits during the spawn is these little fun fact. The fish, these like bluegill, you can fish any bluegill looking lure, any little fish lure, bass lure that looks like a bass, because bass will eat their own, no, I shouldn't say their own kids, but bass will eat their other bass's babies, and little fish will eat the eggs. So if you're fishing this and you're taking it over their bed, they get very territorial and they'll attack this. And that's what I love about fishing this during the spawn. Now, coming into what a very, very good lure to have during the spawn are jigs. This is a black and blue jig. It's one of my biggest jigs. It's a good profile, good size profile. I've caught many bass on this, and I've caught many bass on other colors. I've got a green pumpkin one, and I've got a realistic brown, green, and orange color. I've had very much luck on that one because it's more of a natural color. So basically, you want to be throwing jigs a lot. You would want to be throwing jigs, and I know this is not a thing that's like that's different all over the world. This is everywhere. You want to be throwing a jig, because this represents a crawfish. I've got a little, god damn it, forgot the name, but got little paddle tails on the back, and this is supposed to represent a crawfish. And when you fish this over, crawfish is one of the bass's like number one foods to eat. If you've got crawfish in a pond, like that's what their main food source is. So they will be eating crawfish. Usually any time of year that there's crawfish out, you would be throwing a jig if you've got crawfish, because you can fish this deep. You can throw this out. How I'd like to do this is I like to throw them out deep, and then I let it sit for about 10 seconds, and then I start jigging up, and then I let it sit for about 2 seconds, and then I start jigging up, and then I set it 6 for 2 seconds, and so on, all the way to the end. And then I know there's swim jigs, and I like to fish swim jigs a lot too. But the thing I don't like about swim jigs is my experience in them. I don't know if it was just the brand or anything or how they were made. When I fish them, I don't fish them fast. They turn. They'll flip, and I don't like that on them. So I like to fish football head and everything. That's my opinion on these. And these are good to fish. You can fish them shallow, you can fish them deep. Anyway, now this is going to be a little bit of a crazy lure. I've not caught a fish on this yet. This is brand new. It's a duck. And usually I notice that when the spawn is going on for the bass, that's when the ducks are starting to lay their eggs. And this is supposed to mimic a small duck. Now, if you're fishing topwater, you can fish topwater, you can fish frogs during the spawn or anything really. So you want to be if you're fishing a topwater, you just want to make sure that they've got good hooks and you know that they're going to eat it. I don't know if they're going to eat this. I've not yet thrown it. It's a weird looking lure. You can see the legs, the little things are colored with Sharpie. But it's a good profile. It's a great lure to be throwing, because when the ducks hatch, they're going to be small ducks roaming around, and they're going to be swimming. And I've seen Corona. I've seen bass and pike at the pond by my house take ducks off the top of the water. It is an amazing sight. It is so cool. And I'm hoping this year that I can get some luck on this. If I can, that'll be fun as hell. Now coming into a bait that is like a necessity to have. Spinnerbait. Now, this is a white spinnerbait. On my rod, I was out fishing the other day. On my rod, I've got a chartreuse and white spinnerbait with a paddle tail swimming bait with a paddle tail fluke, just like this one. And I was catching bass on this. Caught about a 3-pounder. Now, I like the chartreuse and white way better than I do a white on a spinnerbait wise. Now, I like to fish these bigger ones. Let me see what this one is. This is a 3/8 ounce. And I like to throw this because it's heavy. I can cast it far. And it's one of those lures that when you're throwing it, you can reel it in pretty good fast, pretty good speed, and you can feel the bite. It's not so big that you can't feel the bite. It's like perfect. You can feel it with a small fish, you can feel it with a big fish. It's a great profile, and this once again mimics a bait fish. This white mimics mainly a shad. So this is going to be going, and like I said, fish eat other fish, and they'll eat the eggs. So they'll get very territorial when you're throwing this. Now, this is the one that I've had a lot of luck on this year. It's a chatterbait. Chatterbait, same, once again, rigged up with the fluke, pearlescent fluke. I've thrown this lately almost every time I've been fishing out. Because every time I've been fishing and I've been throwing this, I catch a fish. Once again, just like a spinnerbait, it mimics a bait fish, and the fish eat other fish. So they're going to get very territorial when they see this. Usually, mainly, they're going to get big bites and big explosions. I like this size. This is just the normal size. They make them smaller and they make them bigger. But I like that size because it's just a normal size, just a regular size. Now we're getting to what I caught my PB on last year. Didn't catch it on this. This is a rattle trap. Rattle traps are amazing. If you hear, that's why they call them rattle traps. They've got little buckshot inside of them. That gives them so they can cast them out further. It's not plastic, so it's just not just plastic, but it also gives it that rattle. That's why they get the rattle trap name. I like fishing these when it's more windy. And I know that sounds stupid because, well, it's such a light lure, you throw it during wind. I feel like when it's windy and you're throwing crankbaits and it's a little bit cloudy, crankbaits, jerkbaits, anything, that's what you're gonna feel like. That's like I've had the most luck on. And once again, mimics a bait fish or mimics a little crawfish. If you look at the color, if you look at the pattern on it, that's a crawfish pattern. So mimics a pattern of crawfish. Swim by, it's their main food source. They're gonna go, catch yourself a nice one. Now, this is what I caught my PB on last year. And like I said, if you have anything that's bluegill patterned, squarebill. Great lure to have during the spawn when they're getting up shallow. So, I like throwing squarebills because once, it's not like a deep diver where they've got the big old bill where they go deep, 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 6 to 7 to 4 to 8 to all like that. Feet and the depth. I like fishing squarebills because it's just a great lure. You can fish them slow, and you can fish them. You can fish them slow and you can fish them fast. You can fish this any time of the year mainly, and I like throwing this when it's windy. This is a heavy lure, and it's got that rattle in it, so it's going through the water. It's making that rattle and it's setting off vibrations. Last year I caught a 5-pounder on this, and that's my biggest bass ever. And I've had so much luck when I throw this. I recommend if you get a crankbait, don't get the cheap ass ones from like the Ozark Trails from Walmart, or get a good crankbait. Don't get like a way expensive if you don't want to spend the money. Like KVD. KVD makes great crankbaits. That's what this one is. Fish crankbaits. These are the lures I don't leave the house without if I'm going for the bass in springtime. These most of the time will guarantee fish. Stick baits guarantee fish. Spinner baits guarantee fish mostly. Crawlers guarantee fish. The swim bait guaranteed fish. Crankbaits guaranteed fish. Jig guaranteed fish. I don't know about the duck. Haven't caught one yet. But those are the 13 lures I find that I have the most luck on during the springtime spawn bass. Hope you guys like this video. I'm thinking for my next video, I will do a rod tour of all my rods or a tackle showcase where I show off all my tackle. Or I'll tell you, I'm gonna go fishing tomorrow, so I'll take you guys fishing with me, and then when I'm done, I'll do a review on my rods and show you what I like to use and everything. So, I hope you guys like this, and what I want you to do is I want you to like and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ian, and this is the Northern Redneck Channel. I'll see y'all later.